Hi, everybody, and welcome to NA Lit Chat. It is Thursday, July 24th. I'm Amy Evans, and we are here to talk about new adult books tonight. New adult is that category of books that falls in between young adult and regular, for lack of a better word. It's that time in your life where there is no parachute, there is no one to catch you when you fall, the drama is high, and the experiments are valid. And we've got a lot of great people in our Twitter audience tonight who love to write and blog about and read new adult. And we've got two amazing authors with us tonight to talk about marketing series and why that is unique and why that's different from marketing an independent book or any of the other things that you might have been considering and thinking about. So, without further ado, I would like to say hello to EJ Wesley, our fearless leader, founder, and producer. What's up, EJ? He's muted himself. He's busy in Twitter collecting good news.
I'm here. I actually hit the wrong button. I was trying to unmute myself quickly, and that was a disaster. I'm doing fine.
You're doing fine? You're good?
Yes,
ready to go?
I'm good. I'm alive.
You've already got a lot of questions for us.
Yes. Lots and lots of questions, and we're gathering news as we speak, so some good news out there.
All right, cool. So we're going to come back and listen to everybody's news in a couple minutes. But first and foremost, I want to introduce the authors that we have with us tonight. We have the amazing team of Lila Felix and Rachel Higginson. Hi, ladies. How are you?
Good. Hi. We're glad to be here.
Hi. How are y'all?
So I'm good. I'm so glad to have both of you. And you guys write as a team, and we're definitely going to talk about that, but you're also both very well known individually for young adult and new adult books. So I just want to take a couple minutes and find out from both of you what you're writing. Now, feel free during the broadcast to talk to each other. Like, this is not a one-way triangle conversation. I always feel like I have to mention that, or else it gets awkward because nobody's talked to each other. They've only talked to me. But initially, I will say, hey, Lila, tell us what you're working on right now. I know you have a new release, and I know you've got a couple big projects that are coming out soon. Tell us what we need to know.
Hi. Right now, I just released Parton, which is #2 in the Bayou Bear Chronicles. So that's a bear shifter series. It was my first paranormal.
That's awesome.
And right now I'm working on another Forced Autonomy, which is an installation of my serial, and I'm working on 3 different manuscripts right now. So one of them is the spinoff of the Love and Skate series. So
is that going to be roller derby? I love Love and Skate. I love roller derby. That's how I found Lila.
Yes. The first series was about the family and all their wives and the roller derby and all that stuff, and so now I'm moving on to the kids. So every book will focus on a different kid. So.
Are you going to adjust the age level because of the age of the characters, or does it fit in the same basic category?
I've skipped ahead 15 years to let them age a little bit. So, yeah.
Very
so they
cool.
now fit in the NA category.
Very cool. Now, Rachel, congratulations. You have a big new release today. What can you tell us about that book and the rest of your books? And then when you introduce us to what you write with Lila after you've introduced all your individually.
Okay. So today I released Air of Secrets. It's the 3rd book in the Starbright series. So it's like a young adult, like dark fantasy, paranormal kind of thing. And yeah, I'm really excited about that. And then I also just wrapped up the 2nd season of my new adult zombie dystopian romance series, Love and Decay. So yeah, it's been a busy summer. And I have some releases coming out this fall. I don't know, a bunch of them. There's my Starcross series is getting wrapped up, and I have a Siren series that's getting wrapped up too.
The Siren series is one of my personal favorites because we all know I'm a bit of a sucker for anything that happens relating to water, even though we're not yet really in the water. But I'm expecting that might change in book 3. You'll have to tease me, and we can all wait and see. Now, you guys write together, and you write a series together. And I think that's awesome. And I know everybody in Twitterland that this is going to cause a rash of questions because we're all sort of curious about how this works. So I would like to request that tonight we keep our questions about writing together to marketing a series and why it's really awesome to have a writing partner and how that helps with that. So how awesome is it to have a writing partner, and how awesome is it to be able to plan and plot and market together? How do you guys make that work, and what do you like best about it?
I personally love it. I hate market. Well, I don't hate it, but I just feel terrible when it comes to marketing. And so Lila is really good at it. And so when we pair together, I feel like there's someone there holding my hand and forcing me to do it. And it puts my books out there. It actually gets me to market. And yeah.
What about you, Lila? How does that work out for you?
I love it. It's one of my favorite. It's the fun part. It brings the fun back to this thing that we call a career that sometimes bogs us down. It's fun to be able to not know, because you said something about plotting, and we really don't plot a lot.
Sure we do.
It's all completely outlined. No, it's not. And it's really fun. I write a chapter, and I send it to Rachel, and she could kill some of my people or make them have a terminal illness. I just don't know what's going to happen. And then it always opens up the opportunity for revenge, and then I'm like, oh yeah, you killed her, look what I'm going to do.
You just described...
That's a whole different writing style.
What you do.
What? EJ, we didn't hear that.
Oh, I said you just described a whole season of Lost. Like, she could kill my characters, we could have love affairs, there could be polar bears. We don't know.
And, sometimes she sends me a chapter, and I'm like, what is this? Like, I'm going to get you for this. And so, it keeps me alive. It's fun.
That is so cool.
I think we try to plan. Like, we sit down and we're like, this is how the next, I don't know, 5 chapters are going to go or whatever. But it's like that thing where you can give everyone in the world the same plot line and no one will write the same story.
Right.
So when we get into it, it's like I have one vision and Lila has a different vision, and we just kind of have to, chapter by chapter, realign our visions to be the same. But it's fun. I mean, it's fun that way. It's like I would never write a story like this on my own, but I love where it's going, and I love the collaboration part of it.
Well, so that's a really cool thing, because when it comes to marketing, especially marketing a series, well, let's get our good news, and then we'll come back to the questions. But basically, it sounds to me you guys have this amazing way of staying on track and keeping it really fresh. And that, to me, is much easier to market than, when you're trying to do a whole long series where everything is supposed to be very parallel and matching, because that's the branding of it all. And that's a challenge. That's a challenge for me, and we're going to bring that up in a little while. But hey, EJ, can we get good news first? Let's talk about the good stuff before we get into the tricky stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Steph Pajonas, S-P-A Jonas, if you're wanting to find her on Twitter, said she just finished her visions of Reunited, part of her... Oh gosh, I always mispronounce this. Is it Nogiku series? God, Steph is going to kill me for that. How do you pronounce it, Amy?
I was going to say her awesome Japanese new adult
romance action story. I screw up the pronunciation every time. She says, but it's with proofreaders now, which is fantastic. And I wanted to share that Steph just tweeted a picture of a giant-ass chocolate bar. It was like as big as her head. And so now we're having this, obviously, with Twitter, this big discussion of does size matter or not. So, way to go, Twitter. Lynn Rush, at Rush_Monroe, said that her good news is that she released Cryostorm last week. And Lynn is incredibly prolific. She writes across lots of different genres, across YA and NA, and so congrats, Lynn. That's huge. And I saw the cover, and it's gorgeous. At Catgirl Studio mentioned that a few minutes ago, but mine is her news is her newest cover, and so Kat's tweeted out pictures of it. I've seen it on Google+. Also gorgeous. Kat does all of her own covers, and it's what she does for a living, actually. She's a graphic designer, and she does a beautiful job. So, St. Bende shared that she has a shiny new cover for the last Elsker book, and she tweeted out the link for that earlier. So if you haven't seen ST's covers, if you've seen any of her covers, they're fantastic. There's always this Nordic chiseled guys smoldering, and they're ridiculously beautiful covers, and with featuring ridiculously beautiful people. So
she also put the word "last" in quotes, which gives me hope, because I think that we're going to see a little bit more from this series, but maybe not from this storyline. And I know that this is a big question that comes up. So why don't we dive right in? I'm sorry, I have something beeping, and I'm not sure what it is.
It's your pacemaker.
No, you know what it is?
Turn off the darkly.
My phone is always on silent when we do these, and it wasn't sleeping, so now it's sleeping. I should stop getting all the awesome Twitter mentions that keep going off. ST, I know that we whispered last week when we were talking about planning a series how, you know, when you look at a traditional 3 to 4 book series or 5 book series, it's like just when you're getting the audience really wrapped in and just when you have some momentum with your releases, it's over. So do you guys have any suggestions based on your experience or what you've seen other people do about the ideal length for a series, both in the length of the novels and how many you should have and how frequently you should put them out? Like, what's the best practice there? Is there one?
Okay, so I have 3 different long series going on right now, and they're all taking me a couple years to finish. But I have a practice as a writer that I can't just write one series straight through. I feel like I need, as a creator, as an artist, to step back and get other projects in, step away from it, and then come back and see, let it simmer for a while before I dive into the second book. So I don't know if that helps me or hurts me, as far as readers want books immediately, right away, and especially if you end on a cliffhanger, it's tough to wait it out. And that's one of the great things about indie books, is you don't have to wait the traditional year or whatever. But I don't know, I need the break. I need to get my story together and make sure I'm saying what I need to. So I don't know if that helps as far as marketing goes, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
And you, Lila, I know that you have multiple series going on.
I do. I think it, just to be honest, it just feeds my ADD. I can't.
I'm with you.
And it's I need them to rest a little bit. I'm okay, I wrote, your first book and your second book, and I need you to rest because there's too many other things that I want to write right now, and you're just going to have to wait. And like Rachel said, that's the beauty of being an indie. I can write what I want when I want. And yes, I do allow my readers to mold some of that schedule. But, right in the middle of Hearten, as I was talking to you about earlier, right in the middle of Hearten, I saw an opportunity to write a horror story, and I stopped everything and wrote a 10,000-word horror story, and then came back to it. And when I came back to it, I was better for it because there was no lull in my thinking about the story. So.
Yeah, you get too close. It's you have to step back from it, or you don't see the world like you need to.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's almost like they're living in my mind anyway, so I'm you wouldn't move from one character to the other immediately. They need to live a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard multiple perspectives on this, and we spoke to Christy Cook a little while ago, and I know she was a little bit surprised when she had a new series come out, and people were half the people that weren't really invested in her other series were very excited about it, but the people who were super invested in her other series, they're attached to those characters. And Christy was I was sort of surprised, it not like they're of course reading the new stuff because they love her work, but they weren't as eager for the new stuff as she thought they might be. It wasn't necessarily a sentiment that was reflected from her particular audience, but I think a lot of writers, you talk to writers and they tell you they want to be working on multiple things. You talk to publicists and they're I want you to get the series out there right away. And you have some people, I think, who would recommend not even releasing your first book until you had a whole series completed. It doesn't sound like you guys work that way at all. and that's comforting to me.
Yeah, I mean, there is like benefit. Like you probably do make more money once the whole series is finished, and when you have a completed project, people are more interested. Readers are more interested. And new readers, I should say. Your dedicated readers will always be there, but at the same time, like that whole fondness, distance makes the heart grow fonder kind of thing. Like it doesn't hurt to make people, want it a little bit. It's like dating, like make them work for it a little bit. They're gonna
Right.
be more
Yeah.
excited, maybe.
Have you guys given how much thought do you give to marketing a series when you're releasing the first book? Do you have all that thought through and planned out, even if you don't have the series written? Have you considered what all the titles might be? Do you try to sketch out the other books in some way, shape, or form? How do you deal with that?
So I have, like, the first book usually not, like, detailed, plotted out, but I have a general idea of where I'm going, and then I have the last scene of the last book figured out. So however many books it takes me to get there and the journey we go on, I don't really always know that, but I know where I'm going. Like, I have a finish line.
Okay.
So if I can get there, then I'm good. But it might
And
take
I think you have
5
to.
books.
I think you have to know where that last book is going to be, because if you don't know where they're going to end up, then you don't know how to drop clues throughout the whole series.
Yeah.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So you have a sense of it, but you don't sit there. I mean, I know people that are like, I don't write the whole series at one go, but I will sit down and write blurbs for 5 books. I'll know where it's ending up, and then I'll work from the blurbs from the books, and that drives like it drives my work, it drives my marketing. I sort of know how I'm going to be presenting. And I thought that was kind of interesting advice, but since blurbs are like my least favorite part, I'm not sure that would motivate me very much.
So
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was just curious with listening to you guys talk. So what I'm wondering is there like a cliff point, like, so where you push readers too far? Like, so you talk about, like, I mean, you want to make them wait. You want to build up anticipation for the next series. I mean, because realistically, like you said, for indie authors, there's an incredible lot of power. If you want to publish, if you have them pre-written, I mean, I've seen authors publish a new book in a trilogy, like one every other month or whatever, because they're already done and written. So, but have you ever pushed fans too far? Like, have you ever got to that sense where you're like, oh shit, I better do this now because they're gonna like jump ship if I don't?
Oh, I make my readers mad all the time. Like, it's a daily thing, I think, over here. But I had one book, the second book in a series, that I just really had a hard time writing. It wasn't me planning any marketing. It was me having a hard time finding the story. And that book didn't get released. It was over a year between the two. And they were not happy about that. And, I mean, they came back, but there was some hate mail going on, so
Right, and you got that kind of that bad feeling in the pit of your author's stomach. You're like, oh god, I've done this too.
Yeah.
Right. See, I only have 4 fans.
And it kind of comes down to do you want it now and have it feel forced and have it feel like a computer wrote it, or would you rather have it when I'm really wanting to write it and it's good?
Right. See, I get that plea as an author, like what you're saying. Like, I believe in that. Man, there are a lot of fans like these days. Carrie Butler on Twitter just tweeted a while ago, and I think she's absolutely right. She says the acceptable amount of time between releases is getting shorter. Curse you, technology, and all of your pressures. And I think that's true. Like, I think fans, like, there are so many fans, like, they don't really care. Like, they just want to consume it because that's part of the series experience for them as a reader. Is like to be able to just like lay in bed all weekend and burn through 3 books or whatever. But
it's that binge mentality, Netflix,
right.
and whatever. We just want it all at once.
Well, and so you guys have both taken a shot at doing serials, which to me are different than series. And just to be clear with everyone, when I talk about serials, at least for my own personal definition, I look at more like short novellas released very quickly that, follow more of like a TV season mentality, as opposed to like full-length novels that usually expect to wait 2, 3, 4 months to a year between, depending on whether you're publishing Indian, traditional, or how quickly you write. What can you guys tell us about your experiences with your serials, and how has that affected, how do you market them differently than other books?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, my serial, it took a lot of convincing to get people to read it to begin with. They were not, my readers were not on board with such a short. I mean, it's 20,000 words, and that is 4 chapters. I split it up into 4 chapters, so it's not like this huge chunk of fiction that you're getting. It's not going to last you more than a couple hours. So at the beginning, there was a ton of marketing that went into it, and I gave away, way more books than I sold at first. But then once the readership built, and my marketing was mainly in the consistent deadlines. Now those I do keep every 2 weeks, every Friday or every other Friday. I release a novella during the season, and I do 12 episodes. So then it kind of markets itself because they're always ready for that next serial. So they're there Friday, and they're there in the weeks between. We're just constantly interacting about it. I post teasers, and they just kind of, I mean, they're so excited that it really fuels itself.
But it took a while to build that readership. What would you suggest if somebody was considering doing a serial? What do you think the minimum word count and the minimum number of serials you should plan should be?
I think you need around 20,000 words. Anything less than that feels more like a short story than it does a novella. And people already are complaining to me about the price. I mean, not a lot of people, but when you invest in a whole series, you're going to end up spending $12, for it. It averages out for me for my full length. It's about 3 full-length books, and so by the end of it, but you want to give them what their money's worth. You want to give them something that is going to last at least a couple hours. So I think it needs to be around 20,000. And then I think it has to be consistent. Going into it, keep a consistent deadline, like a release date. The best thing for me was my every 2 weeks. And it's chaos at my house. It is an insane 6 months. But I think that's what has just given it the most success, is that I've always been there every 2 weeks. And maybe I've been late a couple days, but nothing beyond the weekend.
But I saw you were late once, and it was like a few hours. It was like, I'm not uploading this until tomorrow morning. Sorry, guys, but it was there the next morning. So, EJ, you have a serial. I mean, you have a. So, have you seen? How long would you say before you felt like people were? It almost sounds like you guys had to have the length of a regular novel out before people really like climbed on board. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think for me, for sure, it was about three episodes, and seemed to be, and mine are anywhere from 14,000 to 17,000 words is generally what mine run. I plot mine a little different. I mean, I plot them kind of like we were talking about Lost earlier. I plot them like TV shows, so like each one there are no cliffhangers basically. Now I hedged on that thumb in the very last one I published, but for the most part, like each one's its own self-contained episode, so you can read it and kind of get a picture of what's going on and enjoy it. But they're all kind of under an umbrella. So, but yeah, definitely for me, I think about 3 is what it took before people, because a lot of people just won't. I mean, and I'm going to write a blog post about this because I just saw Laura Howard the other day posted on Facebook. She asked, what do you look for? Like, what's going to turn you onto a book or turn you off of a book? And I was just reading the comments on Facebook, like people that replied back to her, and it was phenomenal, the number that said the length of the book. Like, that's the first thing they look at, is how long is the book, and versus the price quotient. Exactly what Rachel was saying about, a lot of readers are real iffy. I mean, they have a hard time paying anything more than like 99 cents for anything under like 60,000 words. Like, they have a really hard time for that. And I think that's a reality of kind of what we are right now. But so I think the whole size thing is a really big deal right now, like especially for serials. So honestly, I'm just planning on most of my marketing for it's going to happen after it's done. Once the whole series is finished, then I'm going to really hit the marketing of it, and that way readers, if they want to binge read it or whatever, they can.
So that's an interesting strategy. Lila, what do you do?
Mine comes out once a month, and I am late on one right now. Mine are about 17 to 20,000 words. And I didn't see a real strong interest in them until I had 4 out and I made the first one free.
Okay.
So after they could get the first one free and they didn't feel like they were taking too big of a risk in paying 99 cents for the first one, I've seen an increase in sales. So
same here for me. Like, I've got 5 out, and I made the first one free, and then just recently I made the second one free, and each time I've done that, the sales for the others have jumped drastically doing that, because it just lets people sample it. Because you're right, like, I mean, I can't tell you how many reviewers I've gotten on mine that are just like, they're like, well, I normally won't read anything this short, but somebody like put this into my hands and said read it, and they enjoyed it, and so they went and read the rest of them. But there's a huge resistance for readers out there of short material. They're just, a lot of people love a big novel they can dig their teeth into, I think.
Well, I think it's sort of like the Wattpad syndrome, right? Like, if they want something short and sweet, they can get it for free over there. Like, there are some great stories over there, and I'm not sure that people are coming to Amazon to purchase. What I've seen lately that I find really interesting is sort of a mixing of novellas that, like, readers seem to be inclined to buy a 99-cent novella for 20,000 words if it's part of another series that they've already bought into. So I'm seeing a few people who might have a long distance between books 2 and 3, but in between they'll have, a side character story or a little holiday bonus. Have you guys tried that? Do you think it's something you would recommend doing for people?
Lila and I were in this Valentine's anthology where we both did that. That was probably my first go at it. I mean, I've done novellas in the past that were like boy perspectives because I only write from the female perspective. So like in my zombie series, I put out a couple free novellas that were just the same episode, but from the boy's perspective.
I love that personally.
Yeah, it's just fun for the readers. Just thanks for investing. Here's a little something extra. But we tried that on Valentine's Day, and it was just like a fluff little side character story. And yeah, it was, it's not like this huge marketing strategy, but it was fun for the readers, and it was fun to get back into some old characters' heads and write.
Do you think it sold books?
I don't know if it. I don't think it helped my series, but the people who've gone all the way through, the series has 6 books in it already. So, if you get 6 books into it, then it's nice for the readers.
So you would look at something like that as a gift, basically, a thank you present, as opposed to and that's legitimate, because frankly, to me, it's a lot more interesting to give away a snippet of a story than it is to keep giving away like Amazon gift cards. Like, if you're looking for a way to reward people, I think that that's truly lovely and very effective. But I think that, for what we're talking about tonight, when it comes to marketing, people have to be very realistic in why they choose to do things, where they choose to spend their time. And it sounds like you might want to do that as a thank you instead of as a strategy to sell more books.
Well, and I don't think, when you're selling something for 99 cents, you have to sell a lot to really see a return on that. So any kind of like 99-cent novella, unless you're doing like a serial where there's a large amount of them, it's not really, maybe it gets another book under your name and puts you in more algorithms. I don't know. But I don't think, it's like a strategy to.
Actually, we spoke to Bella Roccaforte a few weeks ago, and we talked to her about, she was going to come on and talk about series with us, but she couldn't be with us tonight. But one of the most interesting pieces of advice that I got from her was when we were talking about algorithms and Amazon. Yes, obviously frequency is key, and a lot of people will jump. Everybody sort of identified that $1.99 price point is not something that people pay a lot of attention to, so they jump to $2.99. But apparently there's a very big difference to Amazon when it comes from $2.99 to $3.99. And this is Amazon, so of course if this could all change tomorrow or yesterday or this minute. But it's something we're thinking about, because I know a lot of people who I see will like price their books. They'll go like free $99, $1.99, $2.99. And she said that you'll probably actually wind up making more money if you do like $99.99, $3.99. You know, you're asking for the same investment over the long term, but Amazon will promote you more and you hold on to more of the money in a weird way. I haven't run the numbers on that, but do you guys ever play with that kind of stuff?
So I want to throw in, because we had a question almost identical to that, and I want to make sure I get it articulated correctly. But basically, somebody sent in a question, I think it's DA, Boda that did, said KDP, so Kindle Direct Publishing deals with the series. I don't know that we need to talk about that, but it says better to do the first book for free than the second book cheap, and then third book full price, and I think that really ties into what Amy was asking.
Yeah.
So.
I do that with my Love and Skate series. Love and Skate is free. How It Rolls, the second book, is $1.99. So once I think that with the free book and then the second book at $1.99, by the time they go looking for the third book, it's too late. They're hooked, and which is what we want. We want them hooked on our series. So I think that works. You know.
Would you go free $1.99, $3.99? Is that what you would do?
There's 5 books in the series, so it's free, $1.99, $2.99, $3.49, and then $3.99.
Interesting. Yeah, I keep seeing this week that $3.49 price point keeps coming up.
There's a new price point that I've seen. It's $4.39, and it's looking like Amazon has picked that up as their new price point to advertise.
That's so bizarre.
That's really interesting.
Me personally, I'm gonna do free 99 cents, $10.50, and see. I'm just gonna like ramp it up. I'm gonna believe it.
Licked by EJ.
Right, exactly.
But
book 3 is gonna support me. Yeah.
I have a couple of authors that I watch frequently, and I watch their price points, and I watch their metadata change with their price points, and they stay within the same rankings all the time. So that's sort of what I model my stuff after.
How do you change your metadata with your price points? Like, call me ignorant, but I don't understand how those things are tied together or how you can tie them together.
Because I try to change my price points with my metadata to try to get the most out of the change.
Okay.
So if I'm going to promote, the second book in the Love and Skate series at $1.99, I want the metadata to reflect the best categories it can fit into.
Okay.
So that when it does sell, it hits all the categories it's supposed to.
Got it.
And you also want, you want all your metadata in a series to match each other.
Yeah, I just had a big thing with Amazon. They could not put clicks where it belonged. And I was going back and forth with them for like 6 weeks. I'm like, but it's your website. Like, obviously, I can't change this, but you need to be able to change it. And they finally did. It literally took 6 weeks and 7 emails. And they were excellent about staying on top of it. I have to give them props for that because, I'm not an author with a ton of books. I'm not somebody that, like, they're paying a lot of attention to yet. But I said very specifically, and I'm still waiting for an answer, like, tell me what I need to do so that when I upload the rest of the series, I make sure it matches. If it was so difficult on this one, I don't want to go through 6 weeks waiting, What do I have to do to line it up at the beginning? And I don't have an answer yet. But that does kind of, scare is the wrong word, but it concerns me.
Yeah, and it can be frustrating, too. You just want your book in the right category. Just get it there, but...
Well, it's frustrating because, like, it went to #1. It was free. Just like the first week I launched it was free. I had a lot of promotion, and it went to #1 in, like, the most random category. It was, like, children's ebook collections, and it's not a children's book. I mean, it's young adult for sure, but it's definitely not for little kids, and it's not a collection. So I was like, woohoo, #1 is awesome, but this is so not relevant. I mean, like, I'm grateful for anything, and I'm grateful for the promotion, and I'm grateful that they paid attention long enough to help, but I really wish they could have fixed this. I'd already been in the dialogue to get them to fix it. Like, it had started, we were already in, like, week 3 of the dialogue at that point, so I had, tried to be ahead of the curve when it came to taking advantage of that, and I just couldn't make it happen. They couldn't make it happen. It's just a black box as to why.
I wanted to throw out this question that we got from Google Plus before we move too far beyond it, because it feels like we're going to move out of serial territory. But Mandy Anderson's asked several questions that were really great. But she says, do you find it easier or harder to write a serial compared to a full novel? And I get that question a lot, so I wanted our panelists, our guests, to answer that for her.
Lila, do you want to take this first?
Hey, I was just letting you go with it. I find it easier. That's because for me, forced autonomy is a genre that I've never tried before. It's dystopian, so that's kind of like a fun thing for me. And it doesn't feel like, I love to pack as much action and conversation and just details into those 20,000 words to keep them as interested as possible. And there's no lulls in conversations. There's no point at which I feel like the plot is just, slow. So for me, the serial is, it's like watching a TV show. We want all the action packed into those 20,000 words. So for me, it's easier to write a serial.
Yeah, and I would echo that. I mean, when I sat down, I'm 24 episodes into this thing, so it's down to a science. I can write it. I know exactly how long it's going to take me to write it, and each chapter is going to go this, the same way. And when I sat down, I really envisioned that TV episode kind of thing. And so it's really easy to write my novellas. I just love, that's my fun thing. And I know where they're going. It's like so easy to plan them that when you're writing a full length, there's all this like ambiguity. You can write, maybe you have the first 5 chapters really plotted out, but then, the rest of the novel kind of unfolds and reveals itself as you write. In the novella, it's just all there. You know exactly where you're going. You know how to get from A to Z and all the steps in between. And it just goes fast. And
there's no room for doubt. There's no point at which you hit that 45,000 words and you're like, oh, this is a piece of crap. Because there is no 45,000 words. There is no 45,000 words. Before you know it, you've hit 20 and you're like, okay, that's what I wanted to do.
How does your writing practice, or maybe it doesn't, like, how does it change for the serials? Do you go through the same beta readers? Do you go through editors? Do you just do a copy edit and trust that you have room to fix the story as you go because you're releasing so often? How do you handle that?
Well, what happened to me is a nightmare. Nobody should do what I did, but it happened so fast. Like, it became this thing that I never really thought it would. And so for the 2 seasons, I really felt like I was struggling to catch up to it I could get each episode out, but it wasn't with my regular editor, and it wasn't, I didn't give my betas any time to read it. It was kind of like, here it is. I have an hour before I have to push publish. Like, if you can read 75% of it and tell me what you think, and then I'm pushing publish anyway. So, that
sounds worse for you, because what if they tell you something you don't have time to change?
Well, I'm not a good listener anyway, so it's okay. But it's like, I'm pretty confident in this story. There are little things maybe, but yeah, I'm not a good listener. But so the next time, I don't have to write it again until it doesn't come out until December, and I'm doing it. I'm writing it beforehand. We're going through my real editor. We're doing it right. I cannot keep up like this. So
got it.
It's like an adrenaline rush. It's like skydiving is what it is for me. So it sounds terrible, but it's exciting.
I think we need like Eric Cartman from South Park to say, "I do what I want" every time Rachel speaks
Yes.
from now on. That's all I heard. He's like, "I do what I damn well please. I'm gonna publish it, and you're gonna tell me what you think about it."
No, I like it.
Don't tell me what you think.
Right.
I like the idea of the adrenaline rush, and I love that you're doing it like a series. We had Wattpad on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about how readers on Wattpad are looking for something different. They're kind of happy to experiment. I know just this week, Lee Strauss wanted a little bit of a boost as she's writing her current work in progress, and she's putting it live on Wattpad as it goes. And she's saying, like, this is going to have mistakes. This is not going to be edited. It's not going to be the final version. And, you might want to read my book on writing because there's going to be some skips that you might need to, like, understand my process in order to understand. But I'm hoping some people who want to peek behind the curtain might be interested. And I think that that's awesome. And I can see where that kind of thing might be fun and might be an adrenaline rush for me. And I have a story up on Wattpad right now, which it was a novella that was too short, so it didn't really get the best feedback on Amazon, but the feedback on Wattpad, because they're more excited to do short, has been so much fun. And I'm kind of like, what if I gave it to them first and sort of use that as like a beta readers, or got them to point out the big things that might be missing or wrong. I can see that being an adrenaline rush I can live with. The idea of actually publishing, I give you like full-on props, because that I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah, it's something else. I mean, and there are days when I swear I need a Xanax to make it through, but I
But you
must
do.
love it. Like, I hate it, but I love it. I must, otherwise I wouldn't
tequila.
keep doing it.
Or tequila and Xanax, just however, whatever you got to do. I wanted to throw this out. We love to give reading recommendations on NA Lit Chat, and Steph Pajonas had a great one. We were talking about sort of pricing and the freebies, and whether you should stair-step your freebies, pricing and all that. She said everyone needs to read Write, Publish, Repeat. It's a book that talks about that, and the phrase that I love out of this, she said they talk about making a product funnel. So basically how you get everybody, you get them in, and then it just keeps going down the rabbit hole. Sort of, I think Rachel was talking about that, where you sort of put the prices up a little higher, and Lila, I think, mentioned it as well. But so anyways, Write, Publish, Repeat is the name of the book. You can find it on the Amazon. Steph tweeted that out earlier.
So how do you decide, when it comes to a series, when to step up the marketing from beyond what you would do for an individual book? When do you decide it's time to build a website for the series, or really pay attention to a Facebook fan page or a Tumblr, or pay attention to the forums? Are there any of those things that make a difference, and when do you do them?
I don't know. I think those are great for your readers, and it's like one of the best things in the world to interact with your readers, especially about the characters that you create. I mean, in my real life, I don't get to do that with the people I know. We don't sit around talking about the people in my head, the voices in my head, but with readers, that kind of crazy is okay. So, but the thing that makes the best marketing for me is writing another book, is getting another book out there. So it's like, how much time do you put into like a website just for one series when I have 4 different series going on, when I know that what's going to do the best for that series is just continuing to write it until I get to the end.
So would you do it at the end? Would that be like your final, like you say that, you know that when you have, when you've ended a series, you're going to attract a lot of new readers that wouldn't come along the journey with you. They only want something completed. So maybe then, it sounds like, could be the time where you put that kind of effort in. When it's all finished and you're doing your big campaign and your big hurrah, you could use some of that extra, you could use an extra place for new fans to gather or something when you're finished with the writing.
Yeah, and that would help you keep the series going too, I would think. Like, you're done writing it, but you have a reason to go back to it and to keep pushing it. Yeah, I think, probably at the end is what I would say, definitely.
And how do you maintain your fan base in between books if you don't have, the series website or the fan pages? What are some tricks that you guys have used, especially because, as you've admitted, neither one of you is really on that, like, write, publish, repeat, 2.5 months for your long novels?
I think social media sites like Tumblr and Pinterest go a long way in keeping those images and the things that they loved from that particular series alive in their head. I have a lot of followers on my Love and Skate Pinterest board, and I try to keep it alive. Like, I still post, like, little roller derby things and characters from the new spin-off series, and even go back and take some of the teasers, the picture teasers, and put them on Tumblr, and it just keeps it alive in their heads.
So you have no problem recycling, is what it sounds like, either. Like, that's valuable to do, to remember that that's a strategy.
Right, because even though, some of your older readers may have seen everything that you put on Pinterest, some of the new readers who have just picked up the series for the first time haven't seen it. And so...
Well, and I think that's interesting because I am like so torn when it comes to that. On the one hand, I know that the algorithms and all the advice on social media will tell you like you need to put things up at a minimum of 4 times to reach even like 10% of your list. And I'm one of those people that when I see people who do the same things over and over and over again, I get so annoyed with them, even if I love them to pieces. So looking historically, you can repeat without annoying anybody. Like, you're right. If I'm one of your readers, even if I have seen something a few months ago, like, I'm pretty psyched to have it come my way again because there's like a memory and I'm already sold. And if I'm new, I missed it the first time, so it's new to me.
And that's a great.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off at all. I was just going to say that that's a great point. It's like that. I mean, there's a difference between recycling like 5 times a day and then recycling what you tweeted last month, this month.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I tend to use Mandy, the person who keeps tweeting you questions.
Right.
Mandy helps me with my blog, and I actually most people use Throwback Thursdays for their pictures of themselves when they're a kid, but I use it on my blog as a way to rehash interest in my earlier books.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So I use Throwback Thursday to, remind them, hey, this was the 4th book. I might be on, however many books, but
you're the first guest we've ever had. Right. You're the first guest we've ever had, Lila, that has a plant in our audience. Like, you planted somebody in our audience to ask questions. I love you. Mandy's rocking the hell out of this. Like, she's doing a fantastic job. So one thing I was going to ask, and now it slipped my mind because I was trying to be funny. I'll come back to it. I wanted to get to it before we wound this down, but I'll think of it.
I was going to say about between the series, the best, I mean, I try to get my audience as involved in all of my series as I can. So even if they're waiting on, the 6th book in my first series, it's like they'll connect with me and like, where is this book? And I'm like, well, I don't have that book right now, but please read, whatever else I'm working on. And like Lila says, we do the Throwback Thursday or the, Teaser Tuesday, and it's just constantly like putting whatever I'm working on in front of them so that they don't feel necessarily there's this huge weight between books. They're always reading, something of mine.
And sometimes if a particular person is, really on me about the next book in a series or whatever, I'm like, hey, have you read Anguish? And if they say no, hey, let me give that to you. Let me placate you with, a copy of something else to keep you, because I would rather them read something of mine that's not necessarily in the series than to go off, not upset because they didn't get the next one in the series. So that's always a way to keep, your work in their mind.
That makes a lot of sense. In fact,
I remembered actually after what Rachel said, I remember what I was going to ask. So on Twitter, there's been a discussion. I mentioned on there that I'm very slow. I'm a slow writer. I just am. It's just how it is. But my question to our guests, because Lila and Rachel are extremely prolific, like you guys, you're on top of it. Is there room in the writing world for slow writers outside of traditional publishing? I mean, we all know that George R.R. Martin can get away with, publishing a book every 15 years, but is there room in indie publishing for slow burn writers? Or is that not a reality?
I think there's room for all writers, period. I think there's room for all writers, period. And I mean, I just think about, Anne Elliot is the first person that comes off the top of my head. She doesn't put out books as often as everyone else, but they're worth the wait. And every time she puts something out, it's amazing. So there's room for everybody.
I would definitely. I mean, you kind of have to, like, if you write a book good enough, anyone is going to wait for that book. And like, if you look at my series, like the Starcross series, those books are coming out maybe once every 9 months. So say if you only read that, there is this huge wait between books. And I understand why, my readers get frustrated, but I do my best to make it worth the wait for them.
Mm-hmm. And you would argue that it is the time between the books and the fact that you get to feed your creative soul and your brain with the other things you're writing that make that book worth the wait.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. I mean, I can write quickly, but that doesn't mean that what I write is good. It doesn't mean everything comes out golden. It's that time between that you develop the story, that you picture the world in your mind, and you create the world that your readers deserve. Yeah, so I mean, I think people can turn out books every month if they want, but people will always come back to a good book, always.
So just kind of reading between the lines of what you guys are saying so I can interpret it for the Twitter audience is really the key is sort of accessibility. If you're talking about fandom and building a fan base and doing all these things, yes, writing more books is very important, but also, if you're not going to write a book, every 3 months have a new book out or whatever, being accessible, like bringing your fans into your world, like your creation world, letting them be a part of, how you develop your stories and, keeping the discussion going about the stuff you've already written and all those things, that seems like it's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. Be transparent. Be that person for your audience. Give them something.
Mhm.
I'm going to have to
That's
send
good.
back my crown and my robe, aren't I? And my yeah.
With your scepter.
Right, I can't be that author.
Team
Damn it.
TJ.
My goblet.
No, I mean I've been very candid about my struggle with book 2 for Clicks because I'm very behind on the deadline, and part of that was because I got ahead of the story and then I realized I had sort of like lost my path a little bit with where I needed the series. Not lost my passion, but lost that the whole book is about instincts, and I had like lost that instinct of knowing exactly where all the characters needed to be and where they needed to go. And I'm taking this week for a research trip, and I'm delaying yet again to be able to incorporate just a little bit of those textures and the sounds, because I know that it's going to revive the series for me, and I know it's going to make this book better. Like I know it's, when like you're saying, it's kind of missing something, and you've tried and you just can't put it in there without getting something else into yourself. So, I'm hoping.
calling BS on this. Amy's going to go swim in some gorgeous tropical waters with dolphins. Like, that is not research. That is a damn good time. I don't care any way you
That's the
slice it.
beauty of being a writer. That
Right.
right there. That's what
That
it's all
is
about.
work. That's why we do this. And
Yes.
I have a photographer husband, who also needs to be able to feed his work, and
Right.
it's fun. but I really I really feel like there are times that when it comes to writing series, I think that people can get a little bit bogged down in the fact that once you have an audience and once you have a fan base and once you have expectations and deadlines, it's not the same as like just winging it with this whole new story that you're super excited about. It does, feel a little bit more like, not work, that's the wrong word, but it feels like a little bit more like a have to. And you guys have given us some really great tips about staying enthusiastic and staying true to the story and the characters. And I so appreciate that. I'd just like to get a little bit of last minute advice from you guys when it comes to making the series a brand. At what point do you start to think about, do all of the blurbs have a parallel structure? Are my covers identifiable and easy to recognize? 1, 2, 3. Do I always talk about book 1, or do I always talk about book 3 if book 3 is the newest? What do you guys recommend when it comes to that kind of marketing when you've got a bunch of books and sometimes you only have a second or a minute to talk about, something?
Well, with my readers, I'm always talking about the project I'm working on. So the people that are interacting with me daily, we are always, wherever I'm at, they're ready to hear about more. But when I'm promoting the book, I start with book 1. I think it gets confusing maybe when you're trying to be in, this is the 3rd book in the series and, telling them the entire plotline for the last 2 books. So I always start with book number 1 there. But branding starts at the beginning, with covers and with, the style, how you're going to promote the book. I think that starts right away. You want it to be as recognizable as possible so that even when people are just surfing around on Amazon and your book keeps popping up, everything it starts to become recognizable to them, that they're like, oh, I've seen this book everywhere. I'll buy it now,
Well, and that can be tricky with titles. So, like, we'll see a lot of things. Some people, I'm using my book as an example, and I apologize. I don't mean to. There's a lot of really great examples out there. But so, like, book one was called like Clicks, the Dolphin Prophecy, but I always promoted Clicks. But now that we're into, looking at promoting the rest of the series, suddenly people are like, wait, what's the Dolphin Prophecy? And they're like, you should just call it Clicks too. And I'm like, but, is that, yeah, like I hadn't really like,
Clicks too.
I hadn't really thought about that. It's not the world's worst advice. That's not where I thought I was going to be because, again, I've tried to think of the bigger brand from the start. How do you guys handle that? What do you recommend? Not just for me, but I know that, I speak for many people with that conundrum.
Amy's like, I want to put 2 dolphins on the second cover.
That
way they'll know it's 2.
Good. That's what I wanted to do. She was like, we'll handle it.
I learned a really hard lesson with this one. Oh, sorry, Lila. I don't mean to.
No. Go ahead.
So my first series, Starcross series, everything was I had all these cute names, and then they weren't selling, so we went back and added magic to all of them. So reckless magic, hopeless magic, fearless magic, endless magic, and that was very identifiable, and that did really well for me. So I didn't really associate the titles though with maybe the success of it. So then we went into the second series, and I thought I'd be all cute with the titles, and they're all like star titles. The book's about stars, and so they were really kind of random words that I thought were pretty, but my husband's like, this is not working. So we just recently went back and rebranded the entire thing to now, instead of being different words, they're all air of skies, air of darkness, whatever, but they have that same kind of continuity. And the series is done, it's done better than it ever has with the title changes. And so I think that it is important to have your titles flow into each other and have them really, just like obvious that this is what it's about. This is the same thing that was in the other first 3 books or whatever. At least for me, that's in my experience. And Love and Decay too, everything is called Love and Decay Episode 1. And then that name just gets said enough that people recognize it.
Well, it's interesting because I originally called the whole book The Dolphin Prophecy when it wasn't just called The Dolphin Book. But I had gotten some advice from like people in publishing that like the prophecy thing was over, and I can kind of appreciate what they were saying. But in the indie world, when you're selling directly, like we often forget that those rules do not necessarily apply. Simple, cute does not always work, and clever does not always work, but clear, it does seem to.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Mm-hmm.
How about you, Lila? What's your last bit of advice on branding a series and making it appealing and contiguous? What are the tricks?
I think you just have to keep it theme centralized. Every Levenscape book is a derby term. Every Levenscape book has a derby girl on the front, and I really didn't realize that. I didn't think Levenscape would do anything. Roller derby wasn't a big thing. It was something I love, but I didn't realize that anybody else would love it.
I love it. We geeked out about that.
I didn't really realize that it needed branding until readers were telling me that after reading my book, they've begun to go to local bouts. They're now active in their local roller derby community. They're sending me pictures of themselves dressed up like roller derby girls.
That's awesome.
And I was like,
everyone on your street team have a roller derby name?
Yes, they're the Lila's Rink Rats. They are the Rink Rats. So, at that point I was like, okay, this has gone beyond reading a book and putting it down. This has impacted, something in my life. So then it became a brand. And now I remember at a New Orleans signing, I was introduced to someone and they said, oh, you're the one with the roller derby girls on your cover? And I'm like, yeah. You don't have to know my name. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I wrote, and that's okay. So
but it sounds like that developed organically for you. You were very fortunate that the content, you made good choices and it built, and then the content really dictated that.
Right, but now after that Love and Skate experience, like I know that if you try to brand it that way with every series, then that works.
Okay.
So I got to share this because it's Michael Simcoe's like his only serious tweet of the night. He throws one out a night usually, and
It's
he
always
basically
awesome.
said he said, "Man, only so long as we can tell them apart." Talking about book covers in a series, he says, "I hate digging to find which is the first or second book in a series." So
That's
I
a
think
good point.
I think it is an excellent point because I see a lot of series that do that they're so similar. Like the vibe is maybe they throw the colors different, but if you're not really into the series, you're not going to notice necessarily what the color differences are. So you need to have it great big on the front of the cover, either the title or something in there that makes it really apparent.
I
Like
actually think
what
that's on
sequences.
Amazon a little bit because we put that information in the metadata, and I know Smashwords has taken this pretty seriously as far as organizing series for purchases goes. But Amazon does not. They will, if you pull up a series, you'll get the order not in the order that they're released, but in the order of popularity, and that's really confusing because for whatever reason, like book 7 can be more popular than book 3, and all of a sudden you realize you bought the wrong thing.
Well,
So
that's
it,
another area where your price stacking comes in because it's obvious from mine that the price gets higher as the series goes along. So
Yeah,
All
I
right,
think
well,
that's a great point too. Like actually.
there's no question as to which one comes next. It's just the next expensive one.
all right, that's a good trick. I like that.
So Rachel, is the 24th one in your series? Is it $24?
24 karat gold.
You know, that's a great idea.
Do it. Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Except
Just
then I
for the
won't
hell of
make 70%, right? I'll make only.
Just for the hell of it. See if you sell one book. If you do,
Hey, I bet there are people out there trying to sell your books on Amazon for $594.
right?
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
have a couple of those. I'm like, I don't think these are worth it. Just contact me. I'll get you one.
Well, you guys have been awesome. We totally ran past our time for running high fives, and we give everybody on Twitter big props for all their great advice. They exchange advice with each other while you share advice with our community as a whole. And we've had Rachel Higginson and Lila Felix on here. We are so grateful you guys came on together because that's definitely more fun than separating you two.
Thank you for having us. This was really fun. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's been my pleasure. Can you tell us one more time what the titles of your new releases are so if people want to go get something new or learn how they can figure out what was first because you guys have done this so well, they'll figure it out.
Go ahead, Lila.
No, don't tell me to go. Well, you can buy our book that we co-authored together. It's called
That's
Striking.
true too.
Oh yeah, buy that one. Go
And
get
we're-
striking.
and we're writing Brazing right now, so that'll be soon.
Yeah, September.
And I actually have to say, just to plug that book a little bit, it is so really interesting to see the different ways that you guys write it, and it works together so well. And I talked about that individually with both of you, and I'm probably going to talk EJ into trying to.
Wait, you read it?
On that. Yeah, a while ago.
Oh, I didn't know.
Thank you.
I'm still at that stage where I'm surprised that people read what I write.
Well, you told me how you wrote differently, and I sat there and agreed with you about like how now that you explained.
Oh, I thought you were just being nice.
Most people who come talk to us will tell you I'm not actually very nice.
We think you're nice.
Yes.
Thank you. EJ, thank
Yes.
you. You were awesome. I feel like we didn't get as much from our Twitter audience as we do sometimes, but that's because you were really great at co-hosting and asking questions, and I love that because we don't get to do that too often. So sorry, Twitter. I know you guys were busy, but we had 2 amazing guests, and we had great questions. And I know EJ was feeding them. He just wasn't necessarily posting them. So.
Right. But Twitter was fantastic tonight. Actually, there was and I'm gonna do a Twitter transcript also alongside our audio transcript tomorrow, just so if you missed any of the tweets that went out, they were sharing book recs and lots of fantastic tips over there on Twitter. So
Very
be sure to
cool.
check that out.
Well, this has been another NA Lit Chat. We are going to say thank you for listening. Get going on those series. Take all the tips you heard tonight and make what you're doing even better. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you. I won't be here next week because, as EJ says, I'll be off playing, researching, whatever it is I'll be doing. But we're going to have something great for you, and he'll be tweeting soon about what that will be. Good night, everybody.